Okay, hello. So I'm glad to be with you, discuss talent management, human resources, and training during the COVID pandemic and into the future. What are the major challenges the industry is facing, and what can we do to address them? I am Dr. Lloyd Terrier, and I'm PhD in social influence. I'm associate professor at EHL, École Hôtelière de Lausanne. My areas of expertise are influence, leadership, and more generally, organizational behavior. I'm pleased to welcome today two extraordinary panelists, Caro van Ekelen from Accor and Rick White from Boyden. So just before discussing the challenges of COVID, I will let you introduce yourselves. Maybe Caro, if you want to start.
Yes, of course I want to start. Thank you so much, Lloyd. It's a real pleasure to be here today. I work for Accor Hotels since 13 years now. I came from the hospitality school and I didn't want to stay in hospitality, but I still am. So I worked in operations a lot. I was COO for Accor for the Benelux. And 4 years ago, I started working in HR for the cultural transformation. And since January, I'm in charge. For learning and development, I was already in charge for 2 years. And then on top of that, I became also responsible for talent management and talent acquisition since January.
Good afternoon. My name is Rick White from Boyden. I'm the global lead for travel, hospitality and leisure. Those sectors. I've been in executive search for 22 years, most of which has been focused upon those sectors. I grew up in the travel and hospitality sectors myself before going over into executive search. I manage senior level appointments across the globe, whether it's from C-suite, operations, finance, marketing, IT, doesn't matter. Any function at senior level, and we go and find them. That's me.
Okay, thank you very much. So perhaps we can start the discussion with the general question, and I'll let you discuss about that. But what was the impact of the COVID crisis on the global industry market during what we've called the first wave? And what is the impact now? Okay, in Europe, we can say that we are on a second wave. So what was the impact? What is the impact? Impact on the global market, but maybe impact on a more specific sector, learning and development, impact on talent management, impact on talent acquisition.
Well, if I start, I can only sort of say from talent acquisition and the state of the market and that, but that tends to be a good barometer of what's actually going on in the marketplace a bit further down the line. After the first wave, particularly in Europe, the hospitality sector, as we all know, got hit very badly and is still in a very bad way. How that reflects upon talent in where I operate in the senior level is no different. There's been, an awful lot of people who've been pushed out of work, and it's been really, really bad. I've never seen it as bad as this. The difference between the first and second wave at the moment, not an awful lot is the complete answer, because there's two things reflecting on that I would suggest. Is that one is that the markets might be beginning to see the light at the end of the tunnel with the news of the vaccines, but the most profitable marketplace, which is the business travel marketplace, is not going to come back for any time soon. Business travel will be the last to return, in which case, and that's the one with the highest margins. So from our perspective, we work with both business travel agencies and hospitality, and with those two businesses, both are still exceedingly quiet for senior management.
Yeah, of course, I completely cannot discuss this because there has been a major impact on our business. Hotels were empty, first wave, hotels were closed. Then we hoped in summer everything would be okay, which was fine for the resort hotels. In fact, there we have seen quite a pickup. But for example, Paris was empty, cities were empty. And you only saw B cities, a little bit local pickup, but international traveling was completely out. And then we hoped, of course, in September that we would rebound, and that was not at all the case. So we went a second time drastically by closing hotels, etc., etc. And because we are an asset-light company, a lot of owners, working with a lot of different owners. It's quite, yeah, it's really, really heavy. And if you talk then about L&D, you can understand that L&D today is not a real priority for our business. Owners are surviving. We are in a survival mode. So what I can say is that we, well, in a way became more agile because we needed to work on certification. You know, when the guests came back in September or in summer, we needed to make sure that they felt safe in our place because we had hygienic standards, which were accepted by the guests. So that's on L&D where we worked on to come up with quick digital modules to cope with this.
According to you, how is the hospitality sector going to recover? What can we do to address these challenges? You can see a huge impact on hospitality sector. And according to you, is it possible to take advantage of this rather unusual period? I mean, what are the possible solutions? For example, Caro, with Accor, what has Accor put in place to deal with the COVID crisis?
Of course, look much more at the local business. Also, we have more flexible concept within the hotel, like changing rooms into offices. Because in fact, what we see is that the locals have quite some problems today as well with working at home, etc., etc. But of course, business, international travel will not come back at the same level within 2-3 years because, of course, traveling changed. If you looked at, I don't know what you did the summer vacation, but I think we all stayed much closer to home instead of going further away or far away like we did before. And today we will think twice before we're going to do that. Then we also learned to work virtual. So for hotel business with mice and meeting space and all that will have a major, major impact on what are we going to do with all those square meters in the future? And when will we trust again to travel safely all around the world? That's a major, major topic. But that was not your question, I think. Your question was much more like, how do we will come back in the future? So it's really looking and testing, like how can we do business differently? Also much more work in the business segment on the leisure, because there you have people who want to go out of the house and do something for a weekend or for a week or whatsoever. And to make that safe, I think safety, communication, hygiene, all around that can secure some business, but it will be rough. It will be rough. I don't know if Rick has the solution.
I hope.
Well, I'm constantly getting called by world leaders, you know. I think that, you know, I agree with Caro that what she said was about trust, and that's the only way we can go forward, and in any denomination or any function or any sector. And that trust will be coming pretty soon in the shape or form of vaccines. Once the trust begins to grow, which it will do, so by Q2 next year, the majority of people, senior business leaders I talk with in the travel and hospitality sectors, are fairly upbeat, much more confident. Now, of course, the high value, high margin business travel is not going to come in until at least Q3, Q4, I think 2021. But the big thing here is trust in the market. Recently, EasyJet released their figures. They've lost over $1 billion in their first quarter. That's no surprise. They were expecting it. But what the CEO said was interesting, that as soon as a travel corridor opened up between UK and the Canary Islands, bookings went through the roof. I mean, completely off the scale. So, in fact, the pent-up demand is there, both, as you say, Cara, particularly for leisure travel initially, but there will come a time when everybody's completely zoomed out, and human beings need to interact with each other. Now, you can continue business on a daily basis like this through Zoom, but to create new contacts, to create new business and create growth, you have to meet people. And then that's when the business travel will kick in. Short haul initially, then long haul after that.
You both talk about leisure, okay? Is leisure the new market for luxury hotel? Or is leisure the new main market for luxury hotel? Okay. What are the new value of luxury sector? I mean, we discussed about that with student. Is the new more important value safety? What is the more important value? No?
Should I go, Caro, or would you like to go ahead? I think leisure and business are two distinct markets, so they'll always be there. The only thing is that leisure will come back more quickly than business, merely because companies won't necessarily want their employees to keep travelling at the moment for safety reasons. So leisure will become the predominant marketplace at the moment until such time that business then kicks in, which will be Q3, Q4 next year. But it won't go away. As I said previously, is that people want to meet people in order to create growth and create new deals. You can't keep doing that over Zoom. It's just impossible, because we're human beings. We need to interact. So if you've got an existing relationship, it's easier. That's fine. You can continue. But to create new business, you need to meet. I mean, I was talking to somebody recently today who is a very senior person in the events function in the Middle East. Now they've got their first events function in February, where they're expecting 51,000 people to attend. So they're going ahead with that. And that's a huge commitment. It's their first event since God knows who knows when. So there is glimmer, and there is and the 51,000 people are actually business people. They're not going to be. It's not a leisure thing. This is a very serious event that they're staging. So things are beginning to happen, a bit over here and a bit over there. But the major climb that will be throughout this year will be leisure.
Yeah, I think so too. The impact on luxury you were asking. If it is resort luxury, you see a major pickup, of course, if people are allowed to travel. Because, for example, Thailand is completely empty because their borders are closed. But if you see other luxury resorts, which are, for example, in Europe, Europeans can travel, so they come to the luxury, but they also go to all segments. I wouldn't say that luxury is more demand than mid-scale or eco.
So I can see two needs for safety and needs for meeting or social needs. How can we find the balance between those two needs, safety and social needs? Because it's clear people want to meet again, but people are a bit afraid. It's linked clearly to the situation. How can we find the right balance? And is it possible to address this question with talent management, actually?
Yeah, with talent management, I think you can, because what we're finding more and more, say businesses, certainly in sectors we serve, hospitality, leisure, MICE, travel, aviation, they've never had a chief risk officer before. And all of a sudden, this is a buzzword and a buzz role, which businesses are now looking and scrambling to us, saying, listen, we need a new risk officer in our business. We've never had one before, but we need one now. So once that gets involved, you'll then find a much more structured approach to safety, dripping and cascading down through the actual business itself. Don't get me wrong, businesses have done a fantastic job so far by themselves. But in order for this to go forward, because people have taken such a knock with this particular pandemic, then it will take a lot to restore confidence. But once a vaccine is out, that will make a massive step change, but it won't disappear from people's memories, which means you still have to make sure that people are seen to be cleaning door handles regularly, cleaning desks regularly, in the areas where the customers are, and indeed behind the scenes too, for good practice. So it is certainly affecting talent management. You need to get new talent into the sector, and there isn't that much of it at the moment to go around. So people are also that creates a learning need going forward as well. So I think that in the years to come, even though we will have a vaccine, thank God, people are much more aware about the risk factor going forward and how things can very easily, a click of a finger, almost, as we've all experienced, go very horribly wrong.
Yes, that's exactly the reason why Accor chose to work with Veritas, to really have an important recognition on the market, to work with a partner who knows what hygiene is and gives certificates on that matter. And that's how you try to create trust. And that's working, especially when you have a network of 4,500 hotels and everybody's doing it. It is helping people to feel safe, of course. And then people want to go out, that's for sure. I mean, that's what we have seen in summer, right? That's what happened in Europe. Like everybody was traveling. Small distances, yes, but they were traveling. Because being locked down is psychologically, we all experience it ourselves. You want to go out and break free, right? So that's for hotel business positive. But for a lot of areas, like areas which are completely locked down, there's nothing. Dubai, for example, there's not much. It starts to come back now. But I think we all think twice to make a long journey trip. So what Rick just said is really nice. If the events come back with 50,000 people, my goodness, that's a good sign for our business. That's good.
I think there is one winner coming out from all this, of course, is the luxury sector, particularly in private aviation, because people, who have the means use private jets to go to destinations. So it's not really affecting them too much. In fact, their business has probably doubled in this pandemic. So people of wealth are able to then just take a jet as opposed to getting onto a plane with lots of other people. They have their own jet. They don't own it, but they'll just rent it to get them from A to B and B to A again, to go to another luxury accommodation.
It's resort type of areas, right? They will not come to Paris, for example.
No, absolutely not. It's the resort. I was on another call earlier on today. We have a client in the Maldives, and the Maldives has got various routes which have opened up into it, and there, and there's a lot of tourism actually occurring there, which is great. So again, another nice slither of positive light coming through.
Look at the future. Okay, let's imagine a world without COVID. We can do that. What will be the traces or the marks COVID will leave on the hospitality industry, and more particularly on HR and training? I don't know, but will new skills, aptitudes, characteristics define the ideal new talent? Okay. How do you see the situation post-COVID world in terms of talent?
I think what Rick said is that people still need to meet each other live, but we also learned to diminish that, and that some contacts can be virtually. So what you see, the trend with training, what I've seen in our company is that we digitalize a lot of content, or we make a virtual journey around it. And I think that's the future for the companies in L&D, to have less classroom trainings and be much more effective and make it bites, not all days of training, but really do short things, check if it works, come back to it and do it much more in time, so it's much more effective. That's what I can see what is happening. And this also when you want to develop your talents, of course, your main talents. We did a lot of coming all together from all over the world, but that in fact can be replaced for a big part by virtual sessions.
Well, I think the learnings, what traces will be left, what lessons could be learned from post-COVID world, and it's not obviously just exclusive to the hospitality or travel sectors or whatever, is quite basic really. It is about cleanliness, people being much more aware of things. Before 9 months ago, we'd never even heard of COVID. Now it's in every second sentence that we use on a daily basis around the world. So I think that many more people are much more aware and will be continue to be aware, certainly about cleanliness, hygiene, all those sorts of good things. And of course, in a hotel situation, that's paramount. So unless hotels can actually prove by certificate they've got this and it's updated on a regular basis, and it's almost going back to the days where you see the piece of paper on the back of a toilet door where Mary Jones has cleaned this toilet or Bob James has cleaned that toilet, at this sort of time, but on a digital space, and people are able to access that information to get that trust that they can use that product going forward. So I think that's the evolution of it all is all about that trust coming up that the place, basically the place is clean and being kept clean all the time.
And in a post-COVID world, what will be the most important competency we need to develop in our team, in our talent? What should be the most important content we need to learn?
I think it's connection, a real connection, and a real meaningful connection, even without seeing each other, because we have to work a lot with a mask. So it is a lot in gestures. It is in doing, and that's has been forever, but the extra mile, but not the extra general mile, but really the personal mile, like really listen to the other, to the guest, in what he wants and what he needs, and anticipate. I think that are the main, and of course the whole hygiene part, but we just discussed that already. So it's a different way of cleaning, different way of working, be much more, in the past we had to hide cleaning. Cleaning was something, well, shouldn't be seen. And I think today we have to be, you had the list, in fact, with the signature, and now we want to see the people who clean. So that can also be an opportunity to put those people more in the sunlight, right, in the spotlight. So that's one thing. And what I said, that was, in fact, our major problem, because if you walk with a mask and you meet other people with a mask, you cannot see what they are doing. So you have to exaggerate to show that you are genuine interested in the other and connect with the other.
I think that Carol's absolutely right, because she's taking it directly from the shop floor, from an operational point of view, and seeing it right, firsthand. And so what you would need post-COVID, from every individual, not just one or a leader or somebody working on the desk, is that empathy with other people. We have to learn this pretty quick, because masks aren't going away tomorrow. We might have a vaccine, but people still be wearing them. There'll still be social distancing. So they have to be aware how to work with that in a very positive fashion. And I'm pretty sure that the people at Accor will probably be the people to learn from. But it sounds like Caro and her team are doing a really good job. I think I'll come along and get some lessons myself. But I think that really is the only way forward in the hospitality sector. It's to second guess what it is the customer wants and be able to get it there before. Otherwise, they're having to put too much effort into it. Then that exhausts them. I think, well, gosh, why am I on holiday? I have to do all this work just to get this or that or the other. So it's interpreting those signs, spotting things in advance, especially with the frontline service staff. And so a training need is there, I would have thought, but it sounds like Karen and her team are already on it.
Now, this is also not very COVID linked. It's only we have a handicap on top of it. So we need to push it even harder to get there, I think. And we have to realize that personalization is the future. I mean, I'm not the same as Rick, and I don't want this standard approach of service. I want to be listened to, and I want to be surprised, and I want to, just quality is not enough anymore, And I think now with the extra security, safety side, it's also, again, an opportunity to do this even better.
Yeah, I'd agree, definitely.
I love this idea of connection as a skill and empathy also. I'm interested on this question around the personalization. How can we train people to personalize guest services? Okay, we can exaggerate.
Yeah, it's not about exaggerate. I said it in the way we do or the way we smile, because they have to see it here. If you're. So that's what I mean with exaggeration. But it still needs to be sincere. And I think what we need to do, and what we didn't do in the past in hospitality, especially in Accor, when we were very standardized, when there was no digital world, when you went to a Novotel, you wanted to see the same thing in Ghana as you saw in New York or Amsterdam. So you had to have very rigid standards. But today, the guest is different. He wants personalized service. So you have to forget everything you learn. So in fact, you have to de-learn and learn how to connect again with people. So you also have to give people freedom to do so. Before, everything was in SOPs, standard operating procedures. And even the spiel, like what do you say when a guest comes in, was all dictated. Wow, we want sincere welcome. So it is not skill training anymore, but it's much more mindset training and create trust that they can be free to connect their own way with the guest. And that is completely different, I think, in what is needed today. Because freer people, they only want that, but it's not easy to do. And that's where we are working on now for 3 years in Accor, with our Heartist journey. And that's quite amazing what's happening. Yeah. And results that people free up. Yes. Hope I'm clear.
Maybe Rick, or maybe I have a last question, not necessarily a last, but do you think it's possible to teach sincerity? I love the idea, clearly, but is it feasible to train people to increase their sincerity?
It's not teaching anymore. That's the thing. Teaching is only sending. Sorry, Rick, but this is my heart. So my heart is talking here. It's not teaching. It is mindset. So it is experiencing that what you like yourself, and that realize, and to give that to others and create that for others. So it's not about you do this step 1, you do this step 2. Not about that anymore. Am I more clear now? But perhaps Rick has something to add. Sorry, Rick, really.
No. Yeah, very interesting. I qualified many years ago as a psychotherapist, and I use quite a lot of the science in when selecting candidates for our customers. And what I always say is I listen to what's not being said. And I think this sort of chimes in with Kyra, what's going forward is that you have to almost get people to believe, or rather re-believe in what they're picking up. So when about this personalization or level of service and what have you, you must trust what you feel. You think, oh, actually, you get this unconscious communication coming across from other people. We get it all the time. We don't know it, but we do. And then you sometimes think, oh, I think that person's feeling a bit ill. You can't put your finger on why they are. You can't look inside of their bodies, but you can recognize the things that are going on with their body unconsciously. So, and I think that all you have to do is just trust your senses a little bit more, because we seem to have gone away from that. We've been brought back with a jolt that we have to use these again. And I think it really chimes in with really what Cara was saying about that personalization, is that all you have to be is yourself, and you'll be able to pick up signals from a service perspective about what customers want, or right there in front of you. So it has to get down to that granular level. And if you can do that and give the independence, the individuals to be able to do that, then I think you'll be able to get even better levels of service than we did beforehand.
With the COVID, do you see differences in what new talent, including millennials, for example, are looking for at work? New interest, new talent, the same today than yesterday?
They look for a meaningful journey. They're not looking for a career for 40 years like, I never did that, but a lot of people of my generation wanted that. But they are looking for a meaningful job. So it means they don't look for a job to buzz tables. They look for a job which gives them a sense of why, serving guests or make their day better. There's a higher purpose than the task. And if you can give that to this younger generation, and I'm convinced to every generation, by the way, we can work on our turnover. Because today, what is happening, in fact, we often forget as hotel companies to tell the why We want you and not somebody else. And when you come finally on the work floor, we tell you to go bus tables. I will be there at 11 o'clock. But then you messed up already the whole experience. Because also, if you want to create a great guest experience, you have to create a great employee experience as well. Because if you're not happy yourself, how can you make others happy, right? Doesn't work. In general, doesn't work. Perhaps there are some exceptions, but in general, you have to feel good to give good, right? So it is very important by our leadership to understand that people don't come to bus tables, but they come. I think Disney, I worked 14 years for Disneyland Paris. I did the whole opening, and there I got it all. Because people don't come to do custodial and cleaning all day. They come there to please the needs of the guests, to always find solutions. You drop your work when you see a guest. And I think that principle is, so you are there for guests. I have a very funny example of this. Can I tell that? Is that okay? Because I was an executive housekeeper of 250 room attendants. And we all went through the same onboarding process, which really put the guests central. And so then we opened, and there was this one room attendant who worked on the 6th floor, and she came down and close to the housekeeping office with 2 guests to go to the staff canteen. The staff canteen. So we had something like, hey, what's happening here? And the girl said, yeah, the guests want a sandwich. And I know our restaurants don't have sandwiches, but I know we have them in the cafeteria. So, of course, we corrected that afterwards, that she could send them to Disney Village or somewhere else where we had. But can you imagine, in most hotels, a room attendant dropping her work and make sure that the guest gets a sandwich because he asks for a sandwich? And I think that is the whole difference. Then you have a higher purpose than only cleaning rooms. And I think that is what we are looking for and where this generation is looking for as well.
Well, I suppose the mention of millennials, because millennials are now coming into senior leadership teams. And it's interesting to see the sort of the older generation senior leadership team with younger generation senior leadership team. They normally only want to come in, they'll get into, a board, maybe become an operations director or, sales and marketing director, but they'll only want to be there for about 2 years and then they'll go off and do another somewhere else. So their modus operandi is exactly the same their whole career. Just keep here, there. They won't stick. That's fine, because that does bring creativity. Sometimes it affects some longevity if you want something to be seen through for between a plan of 3 to 5 years. But as they get older, I think that will probably homogenize and they will start sticking a little bit further, because if you're late 20s, early 30s, and you're still single and you're in a very senior position, then it's very easy for you to be very peripatetic in your approach to work. But if all of a sudden you then got a partner, children with that partner, then you need to be sticking a bit further. So it's a life will kick in that respect. But it is interesting. It's quite good for us, of course, here at Boyden, because if someone moves every 2 years, that means there's a proposition that we have to fill for every 2 years. But that's how I'm beginning to see things. Now that may change. Post-COVID might give that an effect of change, because this pandemic has affected everybody in different ways. And if you look at it generally, it could be that millennials after this actually think, no, I might stick here for a bit longer, because who knows what's around the corner. No one knew what was around this corner, and it knocked us sideways. So I've got the security. It could well do that. We'll see. We'll see over the next 2 to 3 years.
Maybe some words about adaptability. Before COVID, I heard a lot about that. And when I heard your answer, Caro, clearly I had the impression that adaptability is still a big thing in talent management. Is it still the case, or could you maybe
it is even more actual than it was, I would say. because our world is not the same as before anymore. We don't even know if tomorrow we will have a job. We don't know if the hotel is going to close. We don't know if the guests are coming. What today can be true, tomorrow can be fake. You have to build resilience and adaptability to cope with this situation already personally. So in work, it's also there. So it's all about adaptability. So yes, definitely you are looking in talent management for people who can at least get along with this situation. Is not that what you mean? Yeah.
No, it's clearly that.
Okay.
There is another question. Do you think this is a personal characteristic, or are we able to develop that? Not to teach, develop that.
No, I think there were a lot of people not adaptable, but they are still there. So you can learn it. I think when you don't have it, but of course, some people like it more, are more at ease with this feeling, and I think that are a little bit the personalities you are looking for, because what we discussed earlier with personal touch and being yourself, that's also very personal and very vulnerable, right? So you're looking for those people who like to do that. So all our technical skills in hospitality, with all the digital development, etc., are less and less important. Like a check-in before on a hotel system, you needed to have a big diploma. But today, you can do it in 3 clicks and all is done. So it is much more about the personalities. And then adaptability is very important, resilient, being extrovert, but it's not even very necessary, but daring to be you and daring to go out to the others, right? This connection, that's very important.
Yes, is adaptability, what we have discussed with Caro, are adaptability and resilience, the 2 big things before COVID, are still the big things in talent management?
I think they are, but I think they've always been there. It's just a case of actually this particular pandemic is bringing attributes out in people which they never thought they probably had. It's also a case of nurture and nature. And people can learn and will learn to adapt going forward, because if they don't, they'll get left behind. But in this particular unique experience, you can't really get left behind. It's impossible, because if you do, there is no chance. So you have to adapt and change and move forward. And I think that we're sort of in a collective learning curve, all of us really, because this is something a little bit more serious than, say, a business transformation. This is a life transformation, because if we don't adapt and be careful, whatever, then you can get very ill very quickly. So it does affect everybody, whether you're president of the United States or whether you're, sweeping the streets in China. It doesn't make any difference. We're all the same. So they all have to make sure collectively that we change our outlook. Just going on from what Cara was saying about check-in, that example is that with the movement of technology, and both from a cleanliness point of view, but also to get people checked into a hotel, or some other operational thing you have to do, which takes away from the pleasure of getting into a hotel. Technology takes that away, so you can get more time to be with the guest, look after them, and then see what they want, into that personalization again. The technology in this respect is being speeded up, because it has to be, because you can't touch things and that sort of thing. So therefore, it's actually made a good. I think there are some really good positive things which will come out of COVID. Thank God.
Do you want to address last point about talent management, COVID, HR, training, development, learning, all those points? Because I learned a lot of things during the panel, but you're the specialist.
I think I hope that we have this quickly behind us, because I know, for example, schools are impacted as well with traineeships. A lot of contracts in hotels, permanent or not permanent contracts, are finished. So we lose a lot of good people. And probably they will work in other areas. So that's good. Let's spread the hospitality all over the world. But I hope really that we can get them back all as soon as possible and continue where we were, in a way, with different, with all our own experience and our own changes and transformation, etc. But that's really what we all hope, right? That the business comes back as soon as possible.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Clearly.
I think that it's a chance for the hospitality sector to really sort of almost start all over again and just start using the good points going forward, because, you know, unfortunately, so many hotels and venues were closed all around the world. So it's a unique opportunity, I think, for businesses to say, right, okay, this is what we've always wanted it to be like. Let's do it, because we can, because we're just starting again from a blank sheet of paper. So let's bring all the good things that we've learned previously. Let's get all the good things that we've learned through the pandemic and what that's given us, and then let's put our own make on this too. So I think that the service levels going forward will be better. The issue will be recruiting of staff back into the sector, because, as Cara said, a lot of them dissipated back out into different places, and you know, some might not be working, but I'm sure a lot will be working with the skills which they have. They're very enviable people to have. So that will be the issue. I think that the senior teams will be able to put forward a great portfolio of ideas and working practices and service level agreements, but it's going to get the staff to not only to get them, once you've got them, then train them in the new way of working. That's the challenge.
Okay. So thank you very much for all this information, these challenges, and how we can try to do something, deal with these challenges. Hope the main crisis is behind us, clearly. I would like to thank you once again, Caro and Rick.
Thank you.
A real pleasure for me. And it was very, very stimulating and clearly informative. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.